It's April 17, 2019. I'm your host, Stephen Vanover, here on the Sports Talk Line Network, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. This is NFL Draft Talk. Today, we're going to review picks 150 through 75 with Sports Talk Line draft analyst and guy who looked like he really picked the wrong week to stop sniffing glue, Connor Livesay. Good day, sir.
What's going on, man? How are you guys?
Doing great, man. It's always a pleasure to see you. We have a lot of ground to cover here today, so no niceties. Let's jump right in. We're going to do speed rounds because normally we've been doing like 3 or 4 guys and going in depth a little bit. There's so many great guys. I'm going to call out the names. You are the senior NFL draft analyst extraordinaire. It's time to strut your stuff, Connor Livesay. We're going to start with number 144, QB David Jones of Duke. Can you give me his best trait, his tank trait, and then his best team fit, sir?
Yeah, I'll say his best trait is his athleticism, which I know is weird to hear from a quarterback nowadays. It doesn't really look like a running quarterback. He's a big guy. So his athleticism with his physical traits is something that I'll kind of combine together. He's a big guy that moves really well in the pocket, outside the pocket. I think that's going to help him out of the next level because I'd say that his worst trait, in my opinion, would be his pure arm talent accuracy. He's a guy who bottom half always doesn't line up with his top half. Inconsistent accuracy, inconsistent deep ball accuracy. He can complete the short to intermediate throws pretty well at times. Sometimes those sail on him, get wide on him too. So worst trait, his pure arm talent, pure mechanics as a pocket passer. Best trait, physical traits, and his athleticism.
Well, he's at number 144 for a reason, and he's from Duke. Hey, if you want a good Wonderlic score, this is your man, right? Okay. Number 133, wide receiver Penny Hart out of Georgia State. Talk to me about some Penny Hart.
And real quick before we get to Penny Hart, I did want to mention, because Daniel Jones is likely going to go in the first round, likely going to go in the top 15. I have him at 140.
Explain yourself, Mr. QB and NFL draft expert. Actually, I know the answer, but everybody else needs to hear it.
Yeah, the NFL loves big athletic quarterbacks. Guys who have strong arms. He does have a strong arm, but the accuracy isn't there. Everyone hears arm talent and thinks just they can throw the ball a long ways. That's not arm talent. If that was, Tyree Jackson would be going in the first round. He's just a guy that he's inconsistent with his mechanics, his lower body mechanics, his upper body mechanics. He's inconsistent with his accuracy in all 3 levels of the field. I see a guy who reminds me a lot of Paxton Lynch. A guy who went in the first round by the Broncos, who probably should have went in the 3rd or 4th round. And
does he owe you money? Why insult him like that, dude? Come on. I mean, seriously. No, you're right. Just huge arm and no accuracy. So, I mean, it is what it is. But
no instincts as a quarterback. The Giants, I know you wanted a team as well. I think the Giants right there, if they want to use one of those first-round picks on a quarterback and Daniel Jones is on the board, he's a guy I think they like.
Now, I would go Arizona Cardinals because they suck at drafting quarterbacks, so that's why I would go for there. Okay. Now, back to 133, wide receiver Penny Hart, Georgia. This is a guy that's moving around a lot of people's boards. What's he doing for you?
Yeah, I really like Penny Hart, the player, a guy who on tape, he runs really good routes. He can make plays down the field. He can make plays, sideline to sideline, getting the ball in his hands, letting him make plays after the catch. That's his best trait, getting the ball in his hands and letting him go to work. And then his route running ability as well. He's a guy who has really good twitched up lower half, can stop, can plant, can cut, can break with ease. But his worst trait, what we're using for his worst trait is his size. He's 5'8", 180 pounds, very, very small, very, very thin, and he didn't test well at all. He had a poor RAS score from one of my buddies, Matthew Baum, who does the Kentley Plata. He does Matthew Baum on Twitter. You can follow him on Twitter. Great follow. Does a lot of combine numbers. Okay. Yeah, does a lot of the combine numbers, pro day numbers, puts them together into a chart and plots these guys out to kind of predict what they're going to be as a size, speed, explosion athlete. Penny Hart was a very poor athlete, which was a bit surprising because you see his explosiveness and his route running after the catch. I expected him to test a lot better than he did. So with his size and his poor athletic traits, that's by far his worst trait of his.
All right, moving on down the list, we're going to number 111, safety. There's a lot of safeties out there, but I'm talking about Amani Hooker, the safety out of Iowa. What's his best? What's his taint? What's his team fit?
Yeah, he's a guy. His best trait is his versatility. He's a guy that can play single high. He can play in cover two, cover three. He's a guy who plays with range. He plays with physicality. He's a consistent tackler. A guy who, like I said, can come in, can play in a variety of roles in the defense. He can cover in the nickel. His worst trait, I would say, he's not a guy who tackles all that well. I like his sideline to sideline range. I like his ability to get to the ball carry, but he's not a finisher. He's a guy who I saw struggle bringing ball carriers down at times. And that's something that, he needs to be better at. He needs to be a more consistent tackler if he's going to play in the box at the next level, because I think he's a guy who can play high and cover one and cover two robber. But when you start moving these guys around, you start playing them in the box close to the line of scrimmage, he needs to be more consistent as a tackler.
Well, the world needs flag football players too. If you can't tackle, that's the place for you. That's, on defense, there it goes. All right, let's get a quick update on a guy that everybody expected a lot of, but he stepped off the combine cliff. I'm talking at 110, Jalen Ferguson, defensive lineman out of LSU.
Well, Louisiana Tech, if he was out of LSU, he might be getting looked at as
sorry, my bad.
No, you're good. But he's a guy who didn't test well at all. His numbers were awful, and that's kind of the tape shows that. The tape shows a guy who's stiff. He's not a good bender when he wins the edge. He doesn't flatten out well. So you expected the three cone to be bad. You expected some of the explosion drills to be bad, because you don't see a guy who plays with a twitched up lower calf, a guy who's very stiff in his hips, stiff in his ankles, stiff in his knees. But the numbers were historically bad. That's by far his worst trait. His best trait is he's got a high motor, and he's a very, very powerful edge rusher. So he's a guy who converts his speed to power very well. The speed that he has, he's able to get going and use his upper body, lower body leverage.
He's got a nose for the QB, hasn't he? This guy has instincts.
He's got pass rush instincts. He leads college football history in sacks with 45. The production's there. The size is there. The pass rush moves are there. He's showcased a few variety of pass rush moves, but the athletic traits are very discouraging. And again, they're so bad that it made him go from kind of like a mid-second round player to a third or fourth round player, because you can't win off the edge consistently in the NFL with just using power. You don't see guys.
Real quick, though, is this guy going to be a steal or just a good guy to get?
I think he's going to be a guy who's going to play, in the league for 8 years, and he's going to be a 4 to 6 sack guy, every year. And I think that's what he's going to be. And that's not a bad player to get in the third round. No, but when you talk about drafting him, in the top 20, that's when you're kind of discouraged with that pick. So he's a consistent down and down player, but he's never going to be the big sack quarterback hunter that teams are looking for.
The world needs ditch diggers.
Yes.
All right, Miles Boykin, number 97, wide receiver, Notre Dame. This is a guy that gets a lot of bounce all over the boards. Give us an update on where he is and what you expect him to do.
Yeah, I was actually a big fan of Miles Boykins before he hit the combine and absolutely destroyed the combine. His best trait by far is his athletic ability. And I even think his athletic ability was a little bit surprising, because on tape he doesn't play quite as good as an athlete as he tested. But the numbers are absolutely astonishing. A 4.42 40-yard dash, a 43.5-inch vert, 140-inch broad jump, 6.77 three-cone, and a 4.07 20-yard shot. At 6'4", 220 pounds. So you're talking about a big guy who can move like a freak athlete. By far his best trait. His worst trait is a guy who he doesn't put it all together on the field. He's a guy who kind of inconsistent as a route runner. He struggles coming in and out of breaks at times. The numbers suggest he should be very flexible, very loose, twitched up athlete. But I think sometimes in his routes, he thinks too much. That's what I kind of That's what I kind of describe it as. Is he's going, I got to break, I got to plant here, and that causes him to be
real quick here. Okay, these are two players back to back that we're talking about, and they are exact opposites, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. One guy you turn on the tape and you go, wow, I love this guy. Not say love, but Jalen Ferguson's, I go, man, I really like his tape. He's sacking the quarterback. He's putting pressure on the quarterback. But the numbers don't add up. The numbers go, this guy's going to be awful. And then you get a guy like Miles Boykin, who the tape goes, yeah, I see some signs. Production was never there. Playing time was never there. Yeah. You see some flashes. He catches a lot of balls, but, it's 3 catches for 40 yards. That's what a lot of his stat lines look like. And then he goes to the combine and absolutely blows it up. So you really, those are the tough guys to evaluate, because it's hard to put it all together. They're not going to be the Quinnen Williams of the world where the tape's dominant, the testing's dominant.
But two guys back to back that really illustrate your job, really. I mean, it's tough. All right, it's a lot of fun. All right, now we're going to move on to another guy that I think is just blowing a lot of people's mind because he's another guy that's tough to evaluate because it's a matter of opportunity. And I'm talking about tight end Cale Waring, number 95 out of San Diego State. This is a guy that's all over the boards, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a guy that's been quite a riser after the combine because he had a really nice combine. A guy who I haven't even watched a whole lot of before the combine. I'd seen him watching some of the offensive linemen from San Diego State, but I didn't really recognize him as a guy that I was going to stand out and watch. And it's because his production wasn't that great at San Diego State, excuse me. But his strengths, athleticism, dude's a freak athlete. Tested very, very well at the combine. Weighed in at 6'5", 252, ran a 4.67, had a 36.5-inch vert, 122-inch broad jump. A guy who tested really off the charts. But I'd say his worst trait is the production. You expect a guy like that at a smaller program to put up really big numbers.
But he had a bad QB, and they were actually going to the wide receivers, right?
Yeah, and they run the ball a lot. San Diego State runs the ball a ton.
True.
But
they have a history of doing that. Come on, look at the running backs that they produce there.
Yeah, and he's a guy that I think is going to come into the league. Doesn't remind me a lot of George Kittle, but George Kittle's career, Iowa, guy who didn't put up a ton of big numbers, got to the league. One of the best tight ends in the league. Could see that happening with the Cale Waring, a guy who's got the traits, he's got the size, he's got the hands, needs to develop his route running, and needs to prove, okay, my college production wasn't me. I'm a better player than this. It was more about the surroundings around me more than me being the reason my production wasn't high.
Well, let's flip to the other side of the ball real quick there. Let's look at cornerback Sean Bunting out of Central Michigan. And this is a guy that's moving around the boards, but I tell you what, I like this kid. Talk to me about him, and don't forget that team fit.
Yeah, he's a guy for me that I love his size. Measured in at the combine at 6 foot, 195 pounds. He's got 31 3/4 inch long arms, so he's got some good length, got some good size. He's a very physical player at the line of scrimmage. I love how physical he is at the line of scrimmage coming out of press coverage. He's a guy who just gets his hands on you and it's game over.
Sherman Light, let's just call it Sherman Light.
No, I wouldn't go quite there. But a really good player. A guy who I think is going to go probably on early day 2. I'll say probably second round. I think I could see him sneaking into the second round. But a really fun player.
That's pretty awesome out of Central Michigan, man. Okay, now we're going to do a guy that's bounced around the boards a lot for some reasons, and I'd like to talk to you about why he's been bouncing around. And I'm talking about the edge rusher out of TCU, L.J. Collier. Talk to me some Collier.
Yeah, Collier's a guy, you turn on the tape, you really like his tape, plays with so much tenacity, went to the Senior Bowl, played with that same tenacity, a very vocal leader style of guy,
football player.
Raw kind of guy. He's yelling, but he backs it up. He plays really well. And a guy who, similar to Jalen Ferguson, isn't that flexible, struggles bending, struggles flattening out. So he's going to have to use his strength to win at the next level. And I think he would fit in well with the team that rotates their defensive linemen, playing on the edge, sliding them in, and playing 3 technique. A guy who plays with so much power, so much tenacity, that I want to get him close to the ball and just let him go to work. That's what he does. He goes
#, Cowboys Nation alert. Okay, yeah.
That's a good one. And I know he's probably could sneak into the back end of that first round. Seattle, that's kind of a team to take a look on.
Oh, yeah.
If he's available and the Cowboys are on the clock at 58, I think he's going to be a consideration there if he's around. So he's a guy that's going to go either really early day 2 or possibly late day 1. And the guy he's going to be a consistent pass rusher.
He's fluid, man. He's fluid. His position.
That's a good word to describe him. A guy who's going to rush the passer, but he's going to play the run. He's going to give you all he's got on every play, and that's
exciting stuff. Now we're going to deviate a little bit from all these sexy positions we've been doing, Connor, and we're going to go down into the pit, onto the line, on the offensive side. And this guy I really like a lot, but hey, there's a big question about him because of injury, and I'm talking about offensive tackle. I'm going to look down for this. Yadne Kajuste, okay? Out of West Virginia. This guy is a load, but man, he got a nasty hit, didn't he?
Yeah, he tore his quad. He's got some knee issues. He's got some groin issues in his past. So the injury history is long. I think without the injury history, we'd be talking about a player who could possibly go at the end of the first round, a guy who's got the athletic traits, a guy who plays with great athletic ability, in my opinion. Pass sets are very clean. Run blocking, he's a nasty run blocker as well. The West Virginia offensive linemen are always tough to evaluate because they always get the ball out so quick. They're a quick passing game offense, so you never see them really get those reps where they got to hold for 6, 7, 8 seconds. But he does a really great job with his technique. I love the way he plays with his hands. He's such a physical, dominant player that he gets real nasty with his run blocking skills, but he's also able to receive these pass rushers, really get back in his pass sets, be kind with his weight distribution, handle these pass rushers, be able to use his hands, his hand placement, his upper body strength to handle those guys at the point of attack. And then his worst trait, his injury history. He's a guy who struggled staying healthy at West Virginia. He's tore his quad in his NFL combine training. So you look at that guy and you go, man, how healthy is he going to be for us? And that hurts his draft stock. There's no question about it.
Well, everything you said about this guy and the reason that I put him on the list, he reminds me of a certain Mr. Green that the Dallas Cowboys drafted a few years ago. All the talent in the world, but he's just an injury magnet.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing right here. Have you heard anything? Is this guy quote unquote injury prone, or are these one and done type injuries? Or is that the discussion?
Well, I hate using the word injury prone because it's just it's hard to tell. There's some of these guys who stay hurt all through college and get in the NFL and never get hurt. There's some guys who never get hurt in college, get in the NFL, get hurt all the time. But he's a guy who has a long list of injury history. He's had multiple knee injuries, had multiple groin histories, and then had a quad injury. So it sure sounds like it. Hate to use that, but I think he's a guy that if you can grab him late day 2, third, fourth, early day 3, fourth round, if a team like the Eagles, who need a replacement for Jason Peters, their left tackle, who's
I think that's an excellent fit, with them because that would really help the Dallas Cowboys because again, I think this is a Green clone. He's not going to play, without injury, so I hope they do take it.
Yeah.
All right, now let's move on to number 75, the top of the list, and this is a guy that is kind of like the opposite of what we just talked about because offensive guard, offensive center, and I want to know what you think about that. And I'm talking about Elton Jenkins out of Mississippi State.
Yeah, you just got a guy you talk about his best traits. It's his size, it's his length, and it's his power. Another guy who just plays super nasty in his run blocking, and I think that's where he's going to be a better player. Not a bad pass blocker as well, but a guy who just when you snap the ball and you're running those inside zone plays, he gets out into space. He mauls these linebackers on the second level. And then when you're just running, man blocking scheme, and he's able to just man on man, get on a hat, he just punishes people at the point of attack. He's so powerful in his upper body. His weight is just always distributed in the right way to where he can recover. If a guy does one with speed, he's able to recover without getting overextending and getting beat by being off balance. So he's a guy who just plays with great athleticism, great size, great length. So those traits are his best traits. Worst traits is that there's sometimes in his pass sets where I think he's a little too passive. He gets back on his heels at times when he's pass setting. Where in run blocking, you hear the word go, he's full steam ahead, just burying you every time. And
the man likes to deliver. Okay, he likes to deliver, man.
And pass blocking, it's like he's wanting to catch these guys too often. Sometimes that's effective. Waiting back, letting them come to you, catching these guys.
In college, it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I can see it.
Please tell me the New York Giants are not looking at this guy because I do not want to see Saquon Barkley behind this guy.
No, I don't know. He's a guy who's going to fit in with anyone looking for an interior offensive lineman. So anyone who needs, we're doing the team fits, we're kind of going through. If you're a team that needs an interior offensive lineman, this is the guy that you're going to be looking at on day 2, the second round, possibly third round, early third round.
And he'd be a heck of a right guard too, right? Because this is a power blocker.
He's just going to fit in anywhere on that interior. Play left guard as well. You put him in on the interior. I think he's best. He's going to be a center. I think that's where he's going to play. That size, that length at that position, just being able to get to those reach blocks, get to the 3 technique, reach the 1 technique at times too. Just everything you see with him, shows that. I hate to compare him to a guy like Jason Kelsey, but I could just see him follow those footsteps. Whereas a guy who's got the size, the length, the speed, the athleticism, and he just kind of handles that interior, that center position for years to come.
That's pretty darn impressive. I know he's on my short sheet, man. I can't hardly wait to see where this guy ends up. I've got some druthers about where I'd like him to end up, especially about where I don't want him to end up. All right. Before we sign off here, Connor, real quick, tell people about what we're going to be doing next week. We're going to be doing the top 75, right? Or actually later. That won't be a week from now.
No, yeah, hopefully we're going to do it maybe get it this week out or have it this weekend because next week is draft week. You're super excited for that. So we're going to have me and Spinsky. Spinsky's going to be helping me out getting my positional rankings up. He's going to be listing these guys out 1 through 10. I'm going to be going in and filling in the info. So we're going to be knocking that out, getting our top 10 positional rankings for each position. Hopefully we'll be doing that. We're going to be knocking that out this weekend, into early next week. And I will be having I'll be re-releasing my official finalized big board, 322 players graded with 1 through 7 priority free agents, undrafted free agents, and then either the day before or on draft day. That's right, people.
He has no social life. That's right. Okay.
Either the day before or draft day, we will have the 7-round mock draft, every pick, every compensatory pick. It's going to be a full draft. No trades because there's no way I'll be able to map that out, but we're going to have a full 7-round draft with every pick, every selection for the 2019 NFL draft. And that's going to be it.
You can have me do the Raiders just because I can pick anybody I want because nobody knows who's they're going to take, right? Okay.
Yeah, just pick a wide receiver, an edge rusher, and possibly a quarterback.
Just as long as they're fast, man. Yeah. As long as they're fast, okay? All right, Connor, it is always a pleasure. Thank you so much. And for everybody out there on social media, please take time. Follow us on @SportsTalkLine. Follow me @Stephen Vanover. Especially follow Mr. @Connor NFL Draft. You got to follow the man, okay? I got to do that. And be back. Check back with us soon. Give us a retweet. Give us a like, a post. Send us out there. Let people know what they're missing. We're going to be here on draft week all week long. It's going to be a blast. Draft day is going to be a lot of live stuff. It's going to be the place to be right here. And so we appreciate what you've done to take time out of your day to be here. Until next time, listen like you play with intensity.